Math 92, Chapter 2. Here we're discussing about how you solve the equations and how you take the numbers and plug into the formula. Solve the equations. Let's say you have 3 plus what number is 8. We all know the answer is 5. So in mathematics, instead of a question mark, we just put a letter of X or any other variables. So how do I solve this equation for X, or how do I find the X? In our head, we're subtracting 3. So to isolate the X, you're subtracting 3 on both sides, and then that would give you the value of X. So let's say we give you equations like 3 plus X is equal to 8. And question is, if X equal 4 is the correct number to replace with X or not. How would I check? To check to see if this is the correct number, although we know it's not, we take this 4 and substitute for the X. So 3 plus 4 is 7, is not 8. Then the answer is no. This is a sign when we say it's not equal. If two items are equal, let's say 10 is equal to 10, this is the symbol we use. And when two numbers are not equal, this is the sign we use. So here, so what we have here is on the first one we have is the given value of the variable solution of the equation or not. So in that case, to see if this is a solution of the equation or not, what we need to do is we take these numbers, y equal 1.5, and substitute into these equations. Okay, so, and on the second one, same thing. Y equal to -7. You take that and also the X. There are two variables involved, and substitute here. So for those, I have the solution here. So the first one, this is the equations. You take 1.5 and substitute for the value of Y. 3Y means 3 times Y. So now since Y is 1.5, in question number 1, you could do the checking, or they ask you to solve the equation. To solve the equations, you could go ahead and add 4.9 to both sides. So that give you 3y equal minus 4.5. If you want to find a y, you divide both sides by 3. Okay, that's one way to do it, to find a y. Or you could just take this 1.5 and substitute for the y in the beginning. So here, to check, it's minus 4.9 plus 3 times 1.5. When you do this, you take 3 and multiply by 1.5 and then minus 4.5. If that gives you minus 9.4, then you say, yes, this is a solution. So there are two ways to do it. One is to just solve the equations, or check by taking the number and substitute for the variables. Okay. In this one, we just want to do the checking. This equation is given. It has two variables, X and Y. And X and Y values are given. So you take these two numbers and you substitute for X and Y. So 4X now is 4 times 3. Negative 9 times y. Y is minus 7. So anytime you want to substitute number with negative, always put it in parentheses. So negative 9 times negative 7. So when I use my calculator, 4 times 3 is 12, and negative 9 times negative 7, negative times negative is positive. And you see the outcome is 75, which is what you have on the right side. So the answer is yes, x equal 3 and y equal negative 7 is the solution of that equations. Number 3, we just want to solve it. So how we solve it? To isolate y, you want to move negative 8 to the other side. So you put positive 8 to both sides. Solve the equations. So these 4 problems are all solving the equations. The first one, what I need to do is I need to move negative, I need to move 1/5 to the other side. So see, the equation is this: 1 over 5 plus y is 7 over 5, right? So to isolate y, I need to move 1 over 5 to this side. So there are 2 ways to do it. You could either do it this way, write it like that, or you put minus 1/5 here. The other one, instead of doing it vertically, you just put minus 1 over 5 here. Either one, because it means the same thing, right? So in that case, if you do it this way, these 2 cancel. Now I have 7 over 5 minus 1 over 5. If you have two fractions with the same denominator, you just write one denominator and subtract the numerator. So the answer is 6 over 5. Same thing here. You want to find y by itself, so you add 7.7. So what happened? Because you want to just have y by itself. See, y by itself. So to get rid of these numbers, this is a minus 7.7. You add 7.7 to both sides. Same thing. You want to have x by itself, so add and subtract minus 1.5, half and half here. Now this is a situation. These 2 cancel. This is a situation that denominators are not the same. In that case, if you want to come up with the same denominator, you take these fractions and multiply by these 2. So 2 over 5 now is 4 over 10. And this one, you multiply numerator and denominator by this 5, as I show here. So in that case, you have 2 fractions with the same denominator. You subtract the numerator is minus 1 over 10. So here, if you have a fractions, you are allowed to take these fractions and multiply by any fractions like that. 3 over 3 is 1. It's like if I take 2 over 5 and multiply by 1, nothing changed. See, 2 over 5, if you multiply 2 over 5 by 1 over 1, does that change anything? No. So if you multiply by 3 over 3, or you take it and multiply by 7 over 7, or multiply by 8 over 8, nothing changed. The value doesn't change. The appearance of fraction changed, because now you have what? You have 6 over 15. But you need to understand that 6 over 15 is equal to over 5. Or here, 14 over 35 is equal to 2 over 5. It's just when you simplify it, that's what you get. So that's what we did here. Now, the last one is solve for letter of the P. Okay, so for that, let's say you have, I write this here so you could see it. let's say you have these equations. Let's assume that you have these numbers. How do I solve this for the variable of p? Don't you need to take -2 to the other side? Don't you need to do this? Right? The same thing here. If you want to find letter of p by itself, you add d here and d here. These two cancel. So letter of p is by itself. That's what we're asking. The only difference is here, since you are dealing with number, you just say 8 and 8 plus 2 is 10. But here, since you are dealing with letters, you don't have number, you just write s plus d. That's what we're asking. To just have p by itself and other letters on the other side. So you see, the process is very similar. Process is very similar. It just, instead of numbers, you have letters. And this 8, 9, 10, 11, these problems are also using the same rule. So let's here. We want to solve it for letter H. It's like if I have 10 is equal 25 plus H, how do you solve this for H? Again, you subtract minus 25. Or you could just say, if you want to solve it for H, just move 25 to the other side. The same thing. It's just like when you move 25 to the other side, you have 10 minus 25. So what you do is you just switch the sign. Or here, you could do it this way too, in order to have H by itself, right? So here, if you want to isolate H, all you need to do is move 2f to the other side. See? So positive 2f become minus 2f. That's what we're asking. We're asking you to find H by itself. Letter N. It means you don't need these three letters. All three letters must move to this side. So all I need to do is switch the sign. This is positive, positive, positive. So all become negative. See? They all move to this side, like K become minus K, L become minus L, M become minus M. See, N is by itself. This is when you solve for a letter. Solve for X. If I want to solve it for X, means I don't need this 9. I have to move 9 to the other side. So X is by itself. See? All I need to do is just put minus 9 here and minus 9 here. I do this vertically. So X is by itself. In this one, they want us to solve for H. If you have, let's say you have 6 equal to 2x or 2n. How do I solve this for n? Here you need to divide. Think of the simple example. What number multiplied by 2 is 6? 3, right? How do I find that number? Do I add or subtract? No, you divide. You divide, okay? So n is 3. What's the main difference between this problem and that? 2 plus n equal to 6. Do we divide here? No. Here, 2 plus which number is 6? Means to find that number we know is 4, right? Always think of a simple example first so you know the process. How do I find the 4? Now you subtract 2 to find the n. So if you have a situation like 5n is equal to 10, there is no plus or minus involved. So to find the value of n by itself, you need to divide by this number. Number sitting next to the variable, you divide both sides by that to find the variables, okay? Same thing here. We divide both sides by this 5.8. Why? Because we just want to find n by itself. These two cancel. and then use your calculator. 4756 divided by that is 8.2. How do I take these numbers and put it back in the original equations to see if when you multiply by 4.8, you get the same thing or not? The other one is solve the equations. When it comes to the fractions and the negative number is more complicated than just the regular. But let's talk about the cross multiplication. If you have two fractions equal to each other, what they can do is they call it cross multiplications. You multiply these two, A times D equal B times C. For instance, let's say you have 2/7 is equal to 6/21. This is identity. That means this side, this fraction, the value of this fraction is equal to value of that fraction. You cross multiply. 2 times 21 is 7 times 6. Both sides is 42. Okay? 21 times 2 or 2 times 21, it doesn't matter. You multiply these two. As long as you multiply these two is equal to what you have. So in that case, if I have 3/5 equal x/2, how do I find the x? Cross multiply. 5 times x is 2 times 3 is 6. Now, I don't see any plus or minus here, right? To isolate x, I divide both sides by 5. So x is 6/5. They call this cross product or cross multiplications. Or cross multiplications. So we are using that property here. Now, first I write it like that. See, it's like if you have, let's say you have -2, 3 multiplied by 7. Let's look at this. What you do is you just 7, you make it as a fraction, 7/1. When you multiply two fractions, negative stay negative. You multiply two numerators, which is 2 times 7, 2 times 7, you do that. And at the denominator, you do this 3 times 1. Okay, so it's like -14/3. The reason I'm saying that here, if you want to multiply these two, instead of x, you write x/1. So see, is -4/5 x, right? So you write it as -4/5 times x/1. And that is -4x/5. That's what I have it here. And then after you do that, then you cross multiply. Now, when you want to divide this case here, when you want to find x, divide both sides by -4. Don't divide it by just 4. If you divide it by 4, see what happens if you just divide it by 4. You have -x is 10. We don't want that. We always want positive number here. When you want to have x by itself, it has to be positive, not negative. So in this case, divide both sides by negative. divide both sides by negative, whatever is sitting next to x. So x by itself is 40 divided by minus 4 is negative 10. And they ask you to check. What you need to do is just take that number and put it back here to check. This is another cross multiplications. So you cross multiply. 5 times 3n, 5 times 3 is 15n. And then number sitting next to n is 15. You divide both sides by 15 because you want to find n by itself. You know, here 5 times 3n. What does 5 times 3n means? Means 3n, you add 3n to itself 5 times. And how many is it? 2, 3, 4, 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15n. So when you're multiplying a number by a number combined with the variables, you just multiply numbers separately. So 5 times 3 is 15, and n is just sitting next to it. So what is minus 2 times 7n? Example. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14n. What is minus 5 times minus 3x? Negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15x. That's what we do is we distribute negative 5 into this parenthesis. We distribute negative 2 into this parenthesis. Cross multiplications. 5 times that is this. Divide both sides by that. Solve and check. T over 2 plus 11 is minus 8. What you do is you subtract negative 11 first. So now you have T over 2. Now you have T over 2 is minus 17 over minus 17 over 1. Cross multiplications is that. So you have T times 1 is just T. Negative 17 times 2 is negative 34. Same thing here. First, you move negative 13 to that side. Then cross multiply. Minus b is that, and then you bring the minus to the other side. So here you have minus b equal to 12.5. And since you always want positive b, you multiply both sides by negative. That's why you came up with this. Okay, the answer has to be positive here. You cannot write minus b. You shouldn't have minus here. That's why the b is minus 12.5. And this is how to check. We go to this problem. Very similar to that. First, we have to move negative 8 to the other side by adding. And then cross multiplications. We have to move minus 2/3 to this side first by adding 2/3. Or just moving 2/3 to the other side. So you could either say positive 2/3, positive 2/3, and these two cancel, or just move minus 2. When you move minus 2/3 to this side, it's positive. They both have the same denominator, so you just write denominator and add. So now I have this. Cross multiplications, divide by negative, that would give you the value of x. Again, this is the problems that you want to solve it for letter of h. First of all, what I do here, instead of v, I just write it v over 1. And 1/3 means the whole thing is over 3. That's what it means, okay? So you bring this, because this 3 at the denominator, right? The steady denominator. And then when you cross multiply, you have 3v equal to that. Now, since we all solve it for h, any variable sitting next to h, which is pi r2, divide both sides by pi r2, because you want to find h by itself. Okay? So when you're dealing with a fraction, you could also multiply both sides by 2. You could do it this way too. You could just say, okay, I multiply both sides by 3. In that case, if you multiply both sides by 3, like that, this 3 and 3 cancel. So you have pi r2h. And since they ask us to solve for h, let me just write it. Since they ask us to solve for h, we divide both sides by what? Pi r2. That's another way to do it. So h is that. Solve for r. First, I need to move 90 to the other side. Since I want to solve for r, I don't need this t. So I divide both sides by t, r is by itself. You could always pause the video and copy. They want us to solve for y value. So we don't need this 17x. 17x needs to go to this side. In order to do that, you put minus 17 here and minus 17 here. This to cancel. Now I have this. Two over 1, 1 over 7. When you take a common denominator here, then you have that. And then cross multiplication. So this part, it's minus 2 over 1 minus x over 7. It's something like that. Okay? Remember, you want the common denominator must be 7. So this is 2 over 1. So what you do is you put a 7 here and 7 here. So instead of 2, you just write minus 14 over 7. 14 over 7 and the 2 are the same thing, right? So now you have two fractions with the same denominator. So you just write 7 and then the numerator. That's what you have here. This is an equation that you need to collect all the x's on one side. You know, I have 4x and x I move this positive 1x to that side. You always move it to the side that has a higher number sitting next to x. So this is 1x, this is 4x. So I move this 1x to that side and then divide both sides. So if you have a problem that, let's say you have 2 plus 7x is equal to 5 minus 2x, something like that, you need to collect all the x's on one side. On this side, I have positive 7. This side, I have minus 2. Always bring it to the side that has a higher positive number. So I need to move minus 2x to this side. Okay? So in that case, I should add 2x. So then what I have is 2 plus 9x is 5. And then, of course, I need to bring 2 to the other side. So I put minus 2 to my. So what I'm asking is, if you have x on both sides, when you want to move, the one that has a higher number before x, save that and bring the other one here. These are the problems that you have to do a translation of English statement to mathematical expressions. 9 times a number plus 10 is equal to 6 times the number minus 13. I did the translation here for you. Look. 9 times means multiplication. 9 times, anytime you see a number means is a variable. So I just put an n. Could be n or could be x. 9 times n. 9 times n means just 9n. Plus, this is plus 10. Equal means this sign. This is a symbol for equal. Is equal to 6 times, again, multiplication, the number, anytime you see a number is n, minus 13. That's the translation of this statement. 9 times n plus 10 is 6n minus 13, okay? Now, 9n is greater than 6n, so I move 6n to that side and 10 to the other side. $29 is equal. Is equal is this. 5 less than, so this is a little bit tricky here. 5 less than twice. What is twice a number? A number is n. Twice of n is 2n. Now, 5 less than 2n means 2n minus 5, not 5 minus 2n. Okay? So let's say here I have $5 less than $20. That means 20. That means 20 minus 5. So what you have after the word than, you always write that first, and then this one. Okay? So here, twice a number, you write twice a number first. 5 less than that is negative 5. So you do the translation first, especially for this one, is important to understand. 5 less than, you always put that first. Now you just solve it for n. Mike is 5 inches shorter than Tom. So whatever Tom is, the height of the Tom is, you have to subtract 5 from that. You see that? So what you come after the word Tom, if it's a number, it doesn't matter. It could be even, sometimes it's a positive or negative number, but you do that first. Minus 5. All right. You go to 24, 25. Again, these are the equations that you have to solve. It's very similar. I have 18p and 4p, right? 18 is larger than 4, so I bring 4p to that side by subtracting. Here, in a case like this problems, what I do is first on this side, I have 6f minus 3f. I simplify that first. 6 minus 3 is 3f. Do that first. Now, when you subtract 3f, you come up with something strange. You don't have any f, and then you have minus 7 equal to 1. That doesn't make any sense. You don't have any f. No solutions. And you come up with something which is not true. Is negative 7 and 1 the same thing? No. So there are equations that when you solve, you don't come up with any f, or you come up with something which doesn't make any sense. So that's no solutions. When you're dealing with fraction, multiply every item by 2. Multiply this by 2, this by 2, this by 2, this by 2. So you don't have to deal with fractions. So now you have this. No, 10z, 1z. If you don't see any numbers, it's always 1. Which one is larger? 10z. So you need to move 1z to that side, right? So you subtract that. And then divide both sides by 9 because you want to find z by itself. That gives you the value of z. It doesn't matter whether z is on this side or that side, as long as z by itself is sitting on one side. (3w) is larger than minus 2w, so I bring minus 2w to that side. That's why you have positive 2w. And you want to collect all the numbers on the right side. So when you collect the variables on this side, you got to bring numbers on the right side. And then divide both sides by that. One triangle is given. You need to understand this is a definition that we assume that you need to know, that in every triangle, sum of all three angles is always 180 degrees. So we assume that you should know this. Sum of three angles is always 180. Angles are not given, they are given in letters. 1 for y, 4, y3. So sum of these three is 180. And then you solve this equation for y. When you find the y, then you could actually find all the measurement. 18, this is 4 times 18. And this one is 5 times 18. So that gives you all three angles. Now to check, you need to take all three angles and add together to make sure it's 180 degrees. Then you know your answer is correct. And this little circle is a sign of degree. Sign of degree is this little circle. In this problem, parameter of a square is given. You know, a square, all the sides are always equal. Parameter is given. Instead of giving you a number, we say each side is 9x minus 8, because in the square, all the sides are always equal. So if one side is 9x minus 8, the other ones are all 9x. So to find a parameter is you have total of all the length. You could either write it like that or just say 4 times 1. Now, when I do the distribution, 4 times 9 is 36. 4 times minus 8 is, you solve this equation, that gives you the x. When you find the x, to understand the length of each is 9 times 2, 10. So each of them is 10. When side of each is 10, 10 plus 10 is 20, plus 10 is 30, plus 10 is 40. That's why we check. The last one is when you have a rectangle. You understand the rectangle also, if you want to calculate the parameter, you just add up the length of all this. The length are given in the problem. They are saying the longest one is 2x, the width is x minus 6. Since these two are equal, so it's 2x, 2x, x minus 6, x minus 6. Parameter is given. How do I measure the parameter? You start from this point. You take this length, add to this, and add to that, or twice of each. That give you an equation. This set of equation is a parameter is given in the problems. So you solve it for x. So this is the last homework problems on chapter 2.